Bird! Get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Holy cow, it's Memorial Day weekend, and I guess you'll get this in time for your drive home tomorrow. You know, that terrible 3 days you take off of work and go somewhere and then sit in traffic or sit in an airport. Well, I'm not doing either, but you can tell by the sound of my voice, I have got one hell of a Memorial Day cold. Yeah, it hit me the other day. It's been coming and going, and I'm going to speed through to your pleasure this intro because at some point I'm either going to sneeze or have to blow my nose, and even I'm not going to do that on audio. You know, the title sponsor of this show is OnX Hunt. You can get 20% off with the promo code HDP20 for your Elite Series in Onyx. If you just happen to be that one listener's like, on what? On where? No, on X, okay? And you can do that. You won't, you know what? It's like that old American Express card commercial. Once you have Onyx, you won't leave home without it. Mostly because you never leave home without your phone. Gunner Kennels, you may leave home without them, but that's only when you're not traveling with dogs. If you're traveling with your dogs, you want them in a Gunner Kennel, period. If they're in your house, you want them in a Gunner Kennel. If you're crate training a puppy, you want them in a Gunner Kennel. W Supply, you cannot get a Gunner Kennel at W Supply, but at W Supply, you will get service and satisfaction on every purchase you make for your dog supplies, especially one of our premier, long-standing sponsors, Garmin. You call up Buddy or any of the crew at W, and they will walk you through exactly what Garmin. Please don't get you're going to have buyer's remorse if you don't get a Garmin. You absolutely will. I'll tell you what, I did a couple of days work. That's almost a 4-letter word. Well, work is a 4-letter word. But to me, since I've been retired, I've helped a buddy of mine. Yes, I know you hear this podcast, Trent and Heather, but I've been helping them do their pole barn, and I've been working my butt off. It really hasn't disappeared any, but doing more work than this old man usually does in the course of a week or two. And my Canine Athlete products, well, we weren't drinking Canine Athlete products. Our dogs all use them, from Juniper to whiskey and Kip. How about that, huh? There's a shout out for all my friends. And Tagus and Itty and Woxie and Vivi. Even my daughter's big old dumb lab over there takes a little Canine Athlete to hydrate and recover in the winter, in the summertime. But anyway, where I was going with that, you can get 25% off your first order from Canine Athlete, which is owned by Wilderness Athlete. And that's where I was going with the story about working for 2 days of my life, of my retired life. We went through some Wilderness Athlete Hydrate and Recover and Energy and Focus. Just dumped it in a water bottle, shook it up, and wham! And another couple purlins went up, or another couple rafters went up. Or trusses. They weren't rafters. They were pre-built trusses. Anyway, you should have seen me out there. I'm beat up, rode hard, and put away wet. Kind of like an old shotgun. If you got an old shotgun in your case, that's in your safe that's been rode hard and put away wet, it's probably a Mossberg. They've been around since 1919. If it's not in yours, it's in your dad's or in your grandpa's, or it's in your family legacy. Somebody in your family owns a Mossberg, period. Boss shot shells. They are, well, I can't make any announcements, but you've heard other people talk about Boss shot shells. You've heard me talk about them. I can't say everybody's using them. That would mean nobody's selling ammunition. But they are coming on with some new products. I'm going to be doing an interview with Brandon from Boss very soon. We're going to try to give you what information we can. There's still going to be other stuff that's top secret. But what they do have in stock right now, things are getting crazy. Don't hesitate. He who hesitates is going to spend more money. Okay? There's a tip. There's a tip. So, go get your boss shells now for this hunting season. Seriously. I just got a load from the FedEx truck, 12 bags of Purina Pro Plan. That lasts my dogs, I don't know, about 3 months, roughly. And I just love it when I see that whole, well, it's not a whole pallet, it's a half a pallet. When it comes in, I grab it with my skid steer, and I get the plastic wrap off it and throw it into a big storage container. And I feel like my wife keeps a pantry upstairs. We call it the pandemic pantry, where you feel like, okay, if something bad happened, we lost power, natural gas is out, whatever happens, we have enough food and water in our house. We're not preppers. But my wife, even though she's a little older than me, but she's certainly not a Depression era child. But I'm telling you, she's a hoarder. But when I see that big old steel knack gang box of mine from when I worked, and I see that thing filled up with Purina Pro Plan, I feel like it's like comfort. It's like when all you yahoos bought all those shotgun shells and 22 ammo and 9mm ammo when there was an ammo shortage. That's how I feel right now with my fresh load of Purina Pro Plan. If you can't tell, this is getting ready to drip right out of my nose. I am trying to not hit pause here. We'll get through this. Walton's, every time I'm telling you what, do yourself one favor besides getting a catalog and besides using the promo code HTP10 for Walton's. I want you to go and get their potato spice. It's called potato spice. It's not potato. It's just, I put it on eggs. I put it on salads. I put it on vegetables. I put it on steak. Mostly I put it on my eggs and omelets, but try that one. Try that. If you're tiptoeing into the spice and the cooking in the wild game world, Walton's is where you want to tiptoe through that door. Marshwear, I just ruined my Buxton pants. Burned a hole with a cigar in my other ones. I got to call up and get some new pants. My daughter needs a shirt. But you, as listeners, can go to Marshwear right now. See, my wife was just on the site the other day. They got all new stuff. Like, not all new additions to the line. Go check it out. And with the promo code HTP15, you'll save 15%. Now, on that note, besides it's all I wear, other than socks, they don't have socks. If they had socks, I would literally be head to toe Marshwear. Everybody listening is hearing these promo codes for the discounts with Walton's, Marshwear, and Canine Athlete. Well, patrons, that's patrons. There's people who go to Patreon and they sign up for like $5 a month. That's all you got to do. You can do $10 a month. You want to get a little more content, but for $5 a month, you could get the promos for Canine Athlete and Walton's and Marshwear. Way more. I'm not allowed to say it on the air. That's a deal that I made with all these people. But you go there, in some cases, it's doubled. That's all I'm saying. In some cases, it's doubled. That's worth the $5 a month if you buy underwear. Okay? Arxis USA, we still don't have a promo code for Arxis USA. I mean, Jack he brought us the best boots once Gumleaf went out of business. He found us the best boots from Sweden called Arxis USA. Well, Arxis is the name of the boot, ARXUS. But you go to ArxisUSA.com and you see what Jack's got in stock for you. They have more models. I wouldn't say they got as many SKUs as Mossberg, okay? But they got some really sweet stuff. They really do. Go check it out. And this is the time. This is training season. This is tick season. This is wet grass season coming this summer. You need a pair of rubber boots. Don't buy schmucky boots. Don't buy yucky boots. Don't buy cross-eyed boots. No. Get yourself a pair of gum rubber boots, and you won't have to buy another pair for 5 to 10 years. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Four-wheel camper came in so handy in the last couple weeks. Well, on that road trip, two of my grandkids got to sleep in it in the bed. It's like my son-in-law wanted to borrow it this weekend, and he backed out because the kid seats wouldn't fit in my Dodge. I said, well, just strap him in the back of the four-wheel camper. That'll be fine. And he's like, yeah, Dad, sure. He doesn't call me dad, actually. But anyway, my four-wheel camper, my Model M four-wheel camper, I get more looks and uh, more inquiries about that than I do anything else. Well, I shouldn't say that. I do get a lot of inquiries about Watermark Brewery. I do. I no, you're thinking, oh, Ron, just come on, just finish up. That's the last one, right? No, there's one more. There's American Field, the magazine. If you haven't gotten a subscription, you're going to love this magazine. I'm going to start doing a review like once every couple months or once a quarter when the magazine comes out. They have really knocked it out for the dog world. And I mean the dog world, not just pointing, not just flushing, not just hounds, not just crossbreeds. Everything that people do with dogs is an American Field. But Watermark Brewery, I am finishing up. In fact, I just went in my kegerator and I picked up that barrel and I was like dangerously close to being out of my leisure. But if you're traveling, especially southwest Michigan, if you're up and down US 31, you get off at exit 22, John Beers Road. Perfect name for a brewery. You get off at exit 22 and you go into Stevensville. You can't miss it. Go to Stevensville Town Center, take a right, big courtyard, dog-friendly, the best beers. And we're going to be having an event there. I'll be giving you some details on that in the next 2 weeks. And it's going to be tied in with a lot of fun shit. But that's what everything, that's why Watermark Brewery became a brewery, because they like a lot of fun shit. And they keep me supplied in beer. Now, I'm going to sneeze. So you're lucky. That's it. What do we do this in? 11 minutes. Oh, I'm kind of back to the old style, aren't I? Well, anyway, I love you guys. I love you girls. And I love you girls more, especially Jill and Kata and Jennifer and Lori, especially you four. They were on the Zoom room last week, and we had a ball. That's another advantage of being a patron. So, yeah, that's it. This episode is with a guy I've talked to for a couple years, and he reached out to me and said, Ron, if you're ever looking for a guest that can talk about something, and went into some detail. I'm sorry, I had a sneeze and blow my nose. Anyway, Ronnie Cowan reached out to me. He has an interesting story, interesting background. And the reason I'm saying this and doing this little preamble before we get into the episode, we had a lot of fun talking about what he does for the University of Tennessee with habitat and recruitment and college-age hunters, and his story of getting the Texas Lone Star tick. And he had to kind of convert to waterfowl because he's not allergic to that. Anyway, what I'm getting at with this is you, one of my listeners, just like Ronnie's been a listener for years, wrote me a compelling paragraph. We had a chat on the phone. I said, gosh, dang it, you'd make a good guest. So there, let's get this done. So here, me and Ronnie, two Ronnies. That's like Ronnie squared. All right, everybody, I am on the phone with Ronnie Lee Cowan, or is it Cowan?
It's Cowan, yes, sir.
Cowan. Ronnie has wrote to me over the years, and I think at one point you wrote to me for a little dog advice, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I was new to it, to the bird dog world. I grew up a houndsman, but wrote to some advice. I've been following your show and had a spark of interest in it, and it's turned into a passion. So yeah, first reaching out was talking about getting a bird dog puppy.
Yeah. And then I didn't realize, you might have told me that before, but you contracted, I'm going to call it, you got the Lone Star tick disease. What's the name of that, Ronnie?
Alpha gal.
Alpha gal.
Yeah.
I was never good in school anyway. I'm not going to remember that, but it would be a giant fear of mine. I mean, as much as I like to eat meat, and not that I deer hunt a lot, but my friends give me deer. I'll shoot one once in a blue moon. Steak, pork. I mean, we got a lot of stuff to cover, what you do for work and what you do at the university and your career. But how did that happen that you got that?
Yeah.
Right now I have a spot on the top of my head where you see me pointing.
Yeah.
And I was out in North Dakota, and every time I woke up at night to go to the bathroom, I'd find another tick walking on me. And I'd get it off, put it on the counter, take my lighter and I'd fry it a little bit.
Yeah.
Now I got this spot on the back of my head, and I got a haircut today, and Shauna said,
what's on the back of your head? And I said, oh, I don't know. I've
Mm.
been picking at it. And now I got this, like self-actualizing tick disease already going on in my
Yeah.
body. How did it happen to you?
Well, it's an interesting story. So, I knew about this allergen. I guess it's correct to call it allergen. I call it a disease, but it's technically an allergen. And so I was familiar with this allergen because I'm working the field as a wildlife biologist, extension agent. I'm out in the woods a lot, and so I was always cautious, wearing DEET and everything. But I was actually living in Florida at the time, working for University of Florida, but I'd always come back up to Tennessee, where I live at now and originally from, to go deer hunting. And so, turkey hunting, deer hunting in the South, you're out there with a lot of ticks. We have
Oh,
several different kinds. Like you'd mentioned, it's the Lone Star tick, but um, how I found out I had it, I just kept having a couple bad reactions. So I'd wake up in the middle of the night. It was like I had lizard skin. It really wasn't hives, but just real rough skin. Uh, Feeling hot, sweaty, body temperature being low, real bad stomach issues, starting to itch, swelling up, and I would take a Benadryl. Benadryl knocks me out, so
yeah.
I
Yeah.
would take 2 or 3 Benadryl, go to sleep, wake up. Eventually, that happened twice. The second time was a lot more severe, where I had to jump in the shower. My wife said, "You need to go see an allergen." Well, I went to the primary care doctor, and 4 months later, I finally get to see an allergist, and
Right.
they described to me that it sounded like it could be alpha gal. They asked me if um, I ate a lot of meat, and if it doesn't have meat on it, it's not a meal to me. So I was eating meat
Right.
every meal. So, yeah, of course. And they said, "Well, have you ever heard of alpha gal?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm very familiar with that. I don't think that because I eat beef or pork every day." And they
Yeah.
said, "Well, let's do a little test." So they did an arm test on me, and it came back showing signs of that allergen. And so they took blood work, and I went on about my business. 2 or 3 weeks later, they called me and they said, "Mr. Cowan, you have the highest case of alpha gal allergen that we've ever seen in this clinic."
Oh,
And I said, "Really?" And I said, "Well, I've been eating meat since I left." And he said, he explained to me that you can get away with that. It's like mast cells building up, and it's like a teeter-totter, or just
yeah.
overdo it sometimes, and it makes a reaction. And it's such a new allergen that there's not a whole lot known about it. It affects people different ways. Some people can't do the dairy even. I can do dairy. Some people can't even smell it. They claim it messes with them when you smell frying sausage. Um, so I found out that I contract that. So I backed up. And so the last time that I had a tick on me was from South Central Tennessee. And it was just during a regular archery season. And, during archery season, in Tennessee, you're going to encounter ticks, and I've picked several off of me. I don't know the specific or the specific tick that it was, but if it was something recent, it would have to been during that archery season 3 years ago. So um, they said that I have a chance of getting over it. Are you hear of people overcoming this like any allergen? They can, I guess, build immunities to it. I was
Mhm.
explained that it can leave and go, and then I've had some people say it just goes dormant. So I'm not really sure on that, but 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had a bad allergic reaction just for eating some marshmallows. I'd failed to realize that marshmallows have gelatin in it. So stop eating the mammalian meat is, easy. I can know not to eat a hamburger or a pork chop, but some of these gummy bears and marshmallows and
Did you have a
unfortunately the
did you
good
have a s'more,
vegetables.
did you have a s'more at a campfire? Come on.
Yeah, I love marshmallows. Love gummy bears is my favorite candy, but got bit by it and dropped my body temperature down. Had to go get antihistamine and go get seen and all that. But there's some people out there that have gotten over it. They say that your chances of getting over it is a lot better if you keep the ticks off of you, which is a real chore if you like to
Yeah.
hunt. So
What's funny is another guy I was supposed to interview last week, and he got a case of bronchitis, and he's a vet from Michigan, and we're going to have basically a tick-centric podcast next week
yeah, yeah,
with Dr. Steve Smith,
that's
and
great.
it's something that I swear to I hung out like I grew up in, like, you grew up in Tennessee.
Hmm.
I grew up I don't even want to say Illinois. I grew up in Chicago. Everybody knows that, right? But we
Hmm.
had the run of the place, and we had two big cemeteries we hung out in. That was our public lands as far as we were concerned.
Yeah.
And I don't ever remember getting a tick back then. And when I moved to Michigan when I was 30, I don't ever remember getting a tick. And then somewhere in the last 10, 15 years, it's like everywhere. I mean, have you done, now, I know you've got enough on your plate with the dogs and your job and what we're going to get into.
Hmm.
Have you done any, because of getting that tick-borne, allergen, have you done any research on it? It's not this is it's almost like a I don't want to say epidemic. I'm not ready to,
Hmm.
but have you heard of a lot more people getting it, or is it just a one-off?
Well, I think it's more regional, and your tick expert can definitely speak to this. To my knowledge, it's just the Lone Star tick, the one that's got that white spot on its back. And
Yeah.
the reason why they hadn't heard of much in Florida is they don't have that tick a lot down there. So
Okay.
Tennessee, the Southeast, they have that tick show up, and that tick actively hunts you. So some of
Wow.
these ticks kind of hang out on leaves and grab you as they go by. These Lone Star ticks, to my knowledge, will actually hunt you down through your carbon dioxide. And so I even heard that you could place a piece of dry ice and they'll cover it in the woods. I mean, they actively search you. So,
Wow.
but
It's like
it's
that movie Predator,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
So,
that
these insects are such a problem. I mean, mosquitoes and ticks. We worry about, bears and things, but there's a lot
yeah,
of dangers of those insects. And it's easy to pass it off as, well, I'll just keep ticks off of me, but that's certainly hard to do.
right.
And I was cautious. I just didn't drench myself in DEET and permethrin, but or permethrin, but it's hard to every time you go out there, usually I might be running late to the woods, or it's going to be hot in the south. And this season I've been good, knock on wood, being in turkey woods. I haven't pulled off a tick. I've seen them crawling, but even chiggers, man, chiggers aggravate us to death down here. And
Yeah.
there's places where you have to tape your boots and tuck your shirts in. And
Otherwise, they're crawling right up
oh
against
yeah, oh yeah, it makes for a miserable day. But I've looked up some things, and they talk about it. Can go away. They've also done some research. They have alpha gal safe pork, and a lot of hunters that I interact with, they think it's only red meat, and that's bad enough. But in reality, it makes you allergic to this molecule that's all mammalian meat. So
Right.
anything that has fur, hooves, so that's pork, deer meat, lamb,
Yeah.
that's the whole gambit. And so they can have different sensitivities to a certain meat. More
Right.
so, just from my experience, I can handle red meat with this better than I can handle pork. For some reason, pork
Wow.
tears my stomach up a little more. But um, the bad reactions I've gotten, it's a tipping point to where I've ate something I wasn't supposed to without my knowledge. But they've got alpha gal safe pork. They've come out now because, in the medical field, people that get heart transplants, valves and things, that comes from pork. I was really concerned about antivenom, getting bit by a venomous snake. They use
Yeah.
horse and sheep, but I was told that they can still do that if you have this. They just treat it with an antihistamine because, the venom's a lot worse than that reaction can be, certainly. And it's always changing. I think a lot of folks get it confused with some other digestive things like having grain intolerance, like,
Right.
gluten, stuff like that. But no, it's real. And I've even heard of cases that coyotes catch it out in the wild, is what we've heard of down here in the South. So I don't know how long it's been around, but it certainly seems like it's being a lot noticed now. So back
Yeah.
in the day, they
It's
may have
either
caught it.
it's either more awareness or Daniel Boone was allergic to meat. One of the two.
Yeah, 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 so
That guy, how did that guy not have trichinosis, right?
yeah, really, it's wild, which luckily for me, I enjoy eating, some of these wild birds, poultry. I told my wife, if I ever get over this, I'm never eating a fried chicken sandwich again. Because if I'm on the road, you stop at fast food, that's the only thing you got really is the fried chicken
Right.
sandwich.
Well, it might be, it
Chick-fil-A
might,
and stuff's
it
good,
might be
but
a silver lining in all this. But that
yeah, yeah,
also led to your like not going after deer anymore, right? And
yeah, yeah. So
and
it definitely changed how I hunted. I was an avid deer hunter. You know, I always turkey hunted, but my main species was deer, and I'm like anybody else. I enjoy harvesting big bucks, but that certainly wasn't my motivation. I like venison. In my career as an outdoor recreation specialist, we use a lot of wild game. As far as we call them hunter harvest classes, where we take hunters, we teach them how to process the game, we teach them hunting skills and habitat management, and then we teach them how to cook it, because a part of my draw to get more people to realize the importance of hunting and get more people involved is, hey, this can be a wholesome family dish. So cooking that, and to add insult to injury, I was a butcher in college. I cut a lot of beef and pork, so I'm probably
This
I
could be
couldn't believe,
karma.
you know,
This could
yes,
be
yeah, you
karma.
know, karma, I guess, but
Well, you kind of mentioned we obviously glossed over it.
yeah.
What you do for work at University of Tennessee.
Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
right now, I currently serve as an outdoor recreation specialist, but my focus is in hunting, fishing, and recreational shooting. We have two outdoor rec specialists. We have one that specializes in non-consumptive outdoor recreation, which is, you know, more like hiking, kayaking, canoeing, and what they
I
call what I do is consumptive, which all of us are consuming something when we're outdoor recreating. But
well, we're
I,
all doing something. Yeah, we're
that's
not.
right.
No
That's
one,
right.
no one's guilt free. They're changing
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
to the environment.
So we focus on outdoor recreation. The state of Tennessee has a Department of Outdoor Recreation. The governor thinks it's really important. So we try to get more participation in youth, young adults, and some people call what I do R3, and that's a little bit of what I do. Um, I don't use that term a lot, because if you're outside of our community, you may not know what that is. And some people in the community might have a negative association with that because they go
Yeah,
hunting,
there's
they see a lot more people out there hunting. So
like no,
I,
no, no. We don't
yeah,
want more.
exactly. So
But we do what we do want is more advocacy and more
that's correct. That's
understanding
correct.
of why we're doing what we're doing.
That's correct. And how I approach it is, we, even if you feel like we don't need more hunters, which I would tend to disagree with, but we definitely need more people to respect it and appreciate it and support it. So what we do is very important on all fronts. And you know, how I handle it is, if I believe I get more people involved, the importance goes way up. And eventually that creates more opportunities for everybody, because you're getting that importance level up. And
Yeah.
maybe one day we'll have a politician that likes to hunt and fish as a part of the culture and really makes it a number one issue, you know.
If we
So
had a real leader that like that, that would be, I've always said this is a real rabbit hole, but when that movie Hunger Games came out, you remember the movie?
yeah, yeah,
My daughter, who was the only out of my three daughters, the only one that didn't hunt, she wanted a bow. She wanted
yeah.
a bow and arrow. And I was like, we need one Hollywood icon to start making outdoor type movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
would be like John Wayne and everybody in my day growing up with a lunchbox that had a cowboy on it. And it certainly wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
hurt because
Oh yeah.
you know, it kind of makes it more mainstream. And it's kind of like I've got on my other computer up here, I've got your education, outreach, and advocacy. And it sounds like, I didn't have time to memorize it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing this mostly with college age students or younger or both?
Mm-hmm. Both. So we target youth through our 4-H extension. I work for University of Tennessee Extension. We're the land grant university, and that's
Mhm.
where 4-H youth development's housed. And a lot of people think that 4-H is livestock, showing cattle, showing sheep, things like that. And that's still a very big part of what they do.
Right.
But in Tennessee and a lot of other states, we've had to involve a lot more reach to reach a more diverse audience. So we do a lot of outdoor recreation here in Tennessee with our 4-H program. We have a very big shooting sports program, hunting discipline, hunting skills. So we work with those kids. I've helped kids catch their first fish from Nashville, Tennessee, all the way down from Hohenwald, Tennessee, which is a very small town. So we're seeing it to where, you know, these country kids, they may not necessarily participate in outdoors like you think they should
You'd think they
or
would
will.
because they're in
Yeah.
Tennessee and in the country, but that's not
It's
necessarily
not the
true anymore.
case. No.
Yeah, I mean,
So we do programming for them, and then we do programming for young adults to try to get them activated or started out by offering opportunities, because, you know, these are specific set of skills. You know, even myself, I grew up a deer, hog, and bear hunter. When I transitioned to waterfowl, it was it was learning how to crawl again,
Yeah.
so it's very specific skills. And then we take our college students, and what we found, and there's some non-GOs are doing a really good job of this. Like I've worked with Delta Waterfowl just recently, that they've noticed a trend in our students here at the at the Natural Resources School. They're going to be future wildlife biologists. They're going to be future land managers, and they don't have any hunting experience. And
Right.
so to me, that's alarming, that these young adults are getting these careers without ever hunting or fishing. And, I think our state DNR people are hiring game wardens and wildlife officers that have never hunted and fished. So giving them that opportunity and knowledge, because they're taking our investment as hunters. We fund conservation, so they're being charged with our investment, and they may not even have that experience of hunting. And
Yeah.
hunting is a lot more important, which I know I'm preaching to the choir, than harvesting birds. I mean, the memories you made in that cemetery in Chicago, and
Yeah.
the memories I made on the side of a mountain in East Tennessee. We're from very different backgrounds, but we share a same story through
Mhm.
that outdoor recreation component.
Yeah. I've always been, I will say I was always, when you mentioned like R3 can get like a bad rap in some cases. And I've always been, I'm a little bit of an old curmudgeon. Like, if somebody needs to be reactivated, you know what? They don't need to be out there. But there's a degree that somebody would say, like, I don't know if I want to get back into it. And then their buddy does.
Mm-hmm.
And then where I go to is with Rough Grouse Society, Quail Forever. You get that guy that comes with those organizations are fighting for, and sadly, if you added up all the grouse hunters out in the country, there's only like 2% of them that are actually members of RGS.
Mm,
So anything to get people activated enough, and I hate to say it, but go to a banquet, find a camaraderie. You may not be helping plant trees or pulling out fence, you might not be out there boots on the ground, but
mm-hmm.
you're supporting what we like. And
Absolutely.
it's almost like I want to know, like the chicken and the egg. Do we need more hunters or do we need more advocates? Well,
Mm-hmm.
you're not, it's like, and this is another rabbit hole, Ron. You got to bear with me.
No, you're
I,
good.
I've been in martial arts most of my life, and late in life, I got into jujitsu. And you got to have 30 new students a month to get one or two that stick.
Mm,
So that's kind of what that kind of R3, it sounds like it's just bringing in people and putting them right into your favorite spot.
mm-hmm.
You're fishing for people, and
Mm-hmm.
one or two out of 10 or 100 will be that guy that comes back and helps, and and
Yeah,
actually does something. So I agree. You got to
exactly.
do that. Do you
Exactly. And that's my whole point that I advocate to hunters is, they're not necessarily going to be at the boat ramp trying to get to your duck
right,
hole or anything.
right,
And, you're looking for some of those that stick, but what you have done, even that person that walks away, for one, they know what resources are available to them if they ever want to come back. They know they can
right,
reach out to the state DNR, those NGOs that you'd mentioned, their universities. And they can also have a greater understanding and appreciation for what we do as hunting. And you would be surprised, maybe not you since you're in the culture, but you'd be surprised about the amount of people that don't understand how conservation is funded at all.
right, right. I'm sure
You know.
most people. I guess the good thing is, from the podcast, one of my dogs is Vivi. I'm gonna go shut this. Quiet. I've told you I fed him before, and I
Yeah,
probably should have let them all out.
that's all right.
Um,
That's all
but
right.
the God, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Damn it, Ronnie.
We're all right. We're talking about getting them to stick, and how they need to understand how conservation is funded.
Right, and that's been a I would say a common thread through a lot of podcasts, whether it's mine or dozens of other ones. Like, people 10 years ago didn't know what Pittman Robertson was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where getting this word out, every time you get the word out, one or two more people, that's all you can ask for. One or two more people remember it. And then in a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
they bring it up. And it's like, well, actually, no, it's not coming out of here. We're paying for something that we love, and we're paying for it on a, a monetary level, but it's paying us back.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
we're we're seeing like a true return on investment when we
Absolutely.
get involved with it. But I
Yeah.
I want to jump to something you said. Um, people that get a degree in forestry or wildlife management or become a game warden.
Mm-hmm.
It is crazy to think when you're already a hunter that game warden may have never shot a quail or chased a coon with a walker hound, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
that is definitely the case. And
yeah.
I think what you're doing is I've always said you may not turn them into a hunter, but you're going to turn them into a voter.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean Republican and Democrat. I mean a voter who thinks about, oh no, I like that. No,
Yeah.
I'm not against that because there's so many other little thousand cuts that are coming at us.
Yeah, and we see that in our current landscape, and just from a personal example, I graduated with my wildlife degree not long ago in 2012, and when they approached me to find students to go on a hunting trip, I thought, well, this will be easy. In
Right.
2012, all of us would be lined up at the tailgate at 5 a.m. ready to go. Now it'll take you a month or two to have a handful of kids, or I call them kids, young
Right.
adults,
Yeah.
sign up to go.
Yeah,
And
because you got into it and you already had that background.
exactly, exactly.
It was probably a bit of a shock to say, like,
Hmm.
you got how many students at the University of Tennessee? I don't know what is it.
Oh, probably over 30,000 right
Right.
around it.
And you would just
Hmm.
think, like you said, well, they all know how to shoot,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
And they don't
yeah,
know their left foot from the right foot in the woods. But
yeah.
um, is this funded through the school or through a grant, or is it you
So
mentioned the
currently,
governor? How does that all work?
so currently, my position is funded through Pittman Robertson. So I'm kind of a unique situation. I don't know of another university that has this, and I hope I certainly can, um, keep this position going as long as I can. But I'm at a university, so I'm a university employee here, but
Mhm.
I'm funded through Pittman Robertson. That's funneled through our state DNR.
Right.
So I work on campus. I cover 95 counties. That's all the counties in Tennessee. And my
Wow,
main
that's a
focus
lot.
is, I'm gone quite a bit. But I mean, and the state's so diverse. I mean, we can do bear hunting in East Tennessee and we do waterfowl hunting in West Tennessee. So I have a lot of opportunity, but
Yeah.
reaching out to those folks. And luckily, the reason why I like the way we're structured, and I don't know if another state has it this way, is that we work through UT Extension, where each county has an extension office and has a professional educator in that county. And
Hmm.
so that makes that 95 counties a lot smaller. And all those 95 counties have a youth program that they can implement shooting sports, they can implement these hunting skills, and they also have a county natural resource agent that can help them on their private lands managed for the wildlife. We have a wonderful extension wildlife biologist here, and Dr. Craig Harper, that does a lot. He's really well known throughout the country. And so their landowners can reach their county agent and have that resource for free, as an education tool that we go out and we help folks meet their objectives when it comes to wildlife.
Sounds like it's a lot of shoes to fill with
It is, it is.
just
So I,
you're the only one at that position that's
yeah,
funded that way.
yeah, across the state. Yeah. And so that's like a while, like, so our county agents, I was a county agent for a long time before I became a specialist. But they're dealing with the cattle farmers, they're dealing with landowners, forestry issues. I mean, you come back from lunch, they may be a snake in the bucket, someone wants you to identify it. I mean, it is a jack of all trades. So it's a
Right.
fun job to have. But yeah, I think it's very important. And I have good buddies that we talk about R3 and we talk about getting more hunters involved, and they share some of the same sentiments. But I always ask them, well, who gets to pick who hunts and who doesn't? If you don't think we need more hunters, who's going to pick them?
Right. Right.
Are you going to
Right.
pick them? Am I going to pick them? So,
Yeah. And
but
like I said, you can recruit all you want, but there's just a handful that are going to stick it out.
yeah,
And then out
yeah.
of that handful, there's only a handful that are going to go on and try to lead.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. And
it,
I know, I mean, it's so important. I mean, you look at what's going across the country right now with, what happened in Colorado and other states like that, where they have these ballot box initiatives. And,
yeah,
when the populations of the cities outnumber the folks in the county, you can see it turned. And there's 26 states out of our 50 that allow that. So,
yeah.
Tennessee is what they call a right to hunt state, which we have a little bit more protection, but even then, optics is everything. When the populations of Nashville and Memphis get so big and they're more disconnect from that culture, who's to
Right.
say that something couldn't happen here in our backyard?
Well, yeah, you think when you say the word Nashville, you think, oh, country singers, they all hunt and fish. No, they
Mm-mm.
don't. No,
Mm-mm.
they don't.
No.
They might sing a song about it, but you know, uh, maybe we need Luke Bryant to come on and
Yeah. Yeah,
for
it
a
all
look
helps.
at it.
Or,
Uh,
you'd mentioned that Hunger Games, or I would imagine that's one of the biggest drivers for the upkick in archery participation.
oh
They
my
saw
God.
that on.
My daughter still once in a while in the summertime, my son-in-law come over and he's a deer hunter and she'll say, Dad, can you get my bow out? And it's a recurve bow.
Yeah.
And now she still hasn't hunted, but I know that in her heart she's never going to be against hunting.
Mm-hmm.
She has, well, for me as a father and a mentor, but it's like she understands one piece of it. So could you say, did I recruit her? No, she recruited herself. Is she going to crowd the woods? No, but
Mm-hmm.
she's going to be a positive vote when those
Mm-hmm.
things come up. And we're very lucky here in Michigan, Ronnie. We have an organization called MUCC,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically I call it like a clear. Their office is in Lansing, our state capital, and basically all the trap and shooting clubs, some pheasant preserves, everybody is kind of under their umbrella, and they get the bad news right in Lansing from the representatives and they educate them. So all those stupid rules that try to come through in states like we are talking about with ballot
Mm-hmm.
initiatives, they literally put their finger in them and they'll educate
Yeah.
representatives from Detroit and Oakland County and go, no, that's not how it works. And then all of a sudden, a law that tried to come through a few years ago is like you couldn't leave a dog in a truck, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And if you put that on a ballot initiative, what's everybody thinking about? They're thinking about a Walmart parking lot with a dog
Mm-hmm.
overheating.
Mm-hmm.
But they did that so they could go against the hunters who, when you're out coon hunting, right? You might
Mm-hmm.
leave two dogs in the box that aren't ready to go, or you might only take out a young one. Or with bird hunting, you only take out the pup first. And
Yeah.
that sneaky little thing they were trying to put on a ballot initiative
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
wasn't about saving a
I'm
dog in the parking lot. It was about us not being able to leave our insulated, cooled dog box. There's no threat of the dog overheating. They wanted to get that on a ballot and have people vote for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is me looking into a crystal ball, but I firmly believe that the future of wildlife management, wildlife policy is going to be the human dimensions of natural resources. So we have a department here. I'm trying to finish up my PhD in human dimensions of natural resources, but looking at things like that, what drives public opinion, public
Yeah.
perception, and it matters. I mean, optics matters in that, and for sure, and how we interact. We've done research. So, my major advisor has done research on black bear and things like that. That's a low hanging fruit here in Tennessee with all the development here in East Tennessee. It's harder to find property to hunt on, and hounds, they can travel such great distances. They get off people's property and tree a bear on someone else's property, and
Right, right.
yeah, it's just that's going to be the bigger issues is the human dimension side of it, the conflict and how to resolve it and how to have better optics, because we can mitigate a lot of it by just having or better education and some better optics on things.
And when I'm just saying that with the college students, do you get a chance to share those kind of stories with them so they kind of eh, could sniff it out? Like, oh no, I remember talking to Ronnie.
Hmm.
No, no, this is
Yes.
we're not going to let
Yeah.
them go after the low hanging fruit. Like you
Yeah.
those tailgate talks with these students.
Yeah. So that's part of, we package that into these hunting skill courses and these hunter harvests where we have a very active chapter of the Wildlife Society here at UT Knoxville. There's other universities here that have that. Our college and at Martin, Tennessee Tech, they all have wildlife societies where those are students that are going to seek a career in those fields that we had talked about. And so that's part of my job is working with those groups. And my office is here in Knoxville, and we have a great faculty advisor, Lindsay. She does a great job with those students, and I'll attend their meetings and give them updates, do classes. We're
Yeah.
trying to teach them, about hunting. We take them on dove hunts. We take them on a waterfowl hunt this upcoming season, and that's part of our conversation that we have. And we try to teach them, the actual skills behind it, why habitat management plays uh, into that and conservation, and we teach them the fun stuff too. So, we're trying to schedule a turkey fan preservation class where they learn how to mount a turkey fan or do a Euro mount kind of things, just show them, the camaraderie and that passion that hunters have.
Yeah. Well, and would you, my other computer went off the offline, but I was reading some of your numbers and your
Hmm.
percentages are off the charts for success. So like 76% of participants
Hmm.
expressed newfound willingness to purchase a hunting license, 83
Hmm.
demonstrated increased knowledge in the hunter's role.
Yeah.
That's a big
Yeah.
one with me. They
Yeah.
may not go hunt, but they have an increased knowledge of the hunter's role in sustainable wildlife management.
Absolutely. So
That,
what we've
that's
done is,
amazing.
yeah, so we take these smaller groups and we do multiple events, but with smaller groups, and we work with them with hands-on education. We teach them the hunter skills, and um, we've taken a couple groups hunting. We have a good wildlife federation that has a hunter and fishing academy that is a little bit more more apt to do that than we are. But we stress to them the importance of it. We teach them about the role in conservation, and if they want to seek this further, where to go, and the importance of a hunting and fishing license. It's not only about regulation, but that money goes to something that has a purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like if I could go back in time, I might have wanted to go to the University of Tennessee. I might maybe if I was not as a little better high school student,
Mm,
it might have been my passion because
yeah.
but back when I would say your age and then younger, it was almost like we thought it fell out of the sky. We
Mm,
didn't the conversation. If you'd have asked me when I was 18 years old going to an Illinois State uh, property that was putting birds out
hmm.
and asked me how this was funded, I go, oh no.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if they asked me what Pittman Robertson was, which has been around for how many years? Since the 30s, right?
Yes, it's the 30s. Yes, sir.
If that was in a trivia question for $1 million, I'd have went, I don't know, you
Yeah.
know. So
Well, it's so easy to get brought up in it. These kids and these young adults. They're going to Hardee's and they're eating breakfast before they go out, and they're seeing a bunch of other hunters there. I mean,
yeah,
it's a tight knit community, and a lot of people are really surprised to know that less than 6% of the population hunts, and
right, right.
it's an eye opening experience when you run into folks that don't have that background. But it's easy to get sucked in our own little bubble,
Yeah,
especially when you live in rural Tennessee where it's just a common thing. I thought everybody hunted fish. I was the same
right.
way. I just thought it was part of life.
And it's not the fact. It's not the
Mm-mm,
fact. Now,
mm-mm,
I'm sure you get a lot of out-of-state students too, but that's a
mm-hmm,
good thing too. You probably get people from states that have almost less of a hunting
mm-hmm.
heritage, so to
Yeah.
speak, than
Yeah, yeah. The state of Tennessee is doing really well as far as hunting goes out of the grand scheme of things. There's only one southern state that really has more license holders than us. Arkansas is a little bit ahead of us, and but we're beating national trends for license sales if you look at the National Hunting Council website. And so, I mean, it all can be better, but there's certainly worse situations out there. And we have a good culture and a good heritage of hunting here in the South, and especially Tennessee. So we definitely want to keep it up because it's so easy to lose it.
right. Now let's get into some of the fun stuff. You you started basically as a child, let's say a child of a houndsman. Would you, is that a,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you didn't buy the dogs, you didn't trade the dog, but
Mm-mm.
you grew up with, would you say sometimes a dozen hounds in the yard?
Oh yeah, yeah. So
That-
I grew up on the side of a mountain, and so we always had hounds. You'd hear them in the background. I remember I got my first hound. My uncle Jerry, he taught me how to hunt and fish, and my dad deer hunted, but he loved hounds, and we grew up. with he only liked black plots for whatever reason. He wanted the black plots, and that's what he liked. And so started out having those. My first dog was a treeing walker named Chief, and I got him when I was about 11 years old. And my uncle ran walkers and black and tans and blue ticks, and so I didn't start training and stuff till I was a teenager in high school, and then I really got involved and got a couple more dogs and had a couple good black and tans. Had several good walkers, and they were not really pets. We didn't think of much of them as pets. They were just a
Right.
tool. They stayed in the kennel outside, and
Right.
we used them, and I mean, we took care of them. They were valuable to us, but it wasn't like having a pet, and I didn't really
But
know
yeah, it
that
wasn't
side
like
of it.
having a house
Hmm.
dog. It was not like it.
No,
To this
no,
day, I don't have a house dog. All my dogs live in a kennel. The
yeah,
upgrade for them is I also live in the kennel, which is where I'm
yeah.
recording from.
There you go. That's good.
But but yeah, I I I could tell you that when I grew up in Chicago, I'll bet you there was a dog in every other yard,
Hmm.
and they slept in the yard.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
All my cousins and all my friends, we all had coon hounds, and they'd stay out on the chain, or they'd stay in a
kennel.
kennel, and everybody had a dog box in the back of their truck, and it was a little outdated, but we still had CBs just for fun, and we used to,
Yeah.
drive and cut them loose. There was a coon lot down the road growing up. He had it fenced in. He could go train your dogs for $5, turn them loose in that
Oh,
coon
really?
lot. Yeah. And it was trade night. It was a big part of growing up, and I liked it. But as life goes, you move away, you get a family, and that night hunting is hard to do when you got all that going on.
Ronnie, I've been invited by two people I consider friends of mine. They're like, and when they see me, like, when are you going to come coon hunting? I'm like, I want to do it so bad, but it starts so late.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I really relish, even when I was in the trades, I could live on less sleep, but that was by my choice. It wasn't by starting out at 8 o'clock at night and getting home at 6 in the morning,
Hmm.
or if you lost dogs. And but I'm enthused about it. I think it's something that I wish I would have done, but now I'm like, I really want to go to bed at 10 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you got a coon up a tree.
Right,
Is
right.
what I was. And my brother, he still has several hounds. I haven't had a hound in a while, but he still hunts those walkers. And we cut loose a couple months ago, back during the season, and it treed on top of a mountain. It took us hours to get there, and rough as country. I mean, I wouldn't have walked up there during the spring or summer for nothing. All kinds of rock outcrops. Get up there, make all this valiant effort, and it's a den tree, you know. And you sit there and you're contemplating life choices, and you got to get down off of that mountain and pulling dogs, and it's a lot of fun. But you have these moments where you realize, uh, it's got to be something you love. Is the only thing I could say. It's got to be something you really love.
When we were talking a while back before we were trying to find time to do this,
Hmm.
I told you I did some boar hunting in Crossville.
Hmm.
Now, I assume those are wild pigs, but there was fences, but all the fences had holes in them. I mean, we had to go through gates with the Jeep.
Hmm.
Most of these fences, they weren't keeping the pig in. Is that something that's still active
Yeah.
in
So
Tennessee?
so it's changed a lot since then. But there are still wild hogs here. They're still a problem. They're not a game species anymore. Growing up, they were always game species. They had a season, regulations. You can run them with dogs. Now it's not a game animal. You can still hunt them, but you got to be signed off as a designee by a landowner and all that, I believe.
Okay.
And there in the dog part of it is not a quarter of what it used to be. I think there is still some opportunity in certain counties, but they're feral. They got mixed in, domesticated and stuff. And what got people in trouble is they were relocating hogs. I mean, they love doing it, so they'd catch hogs, turn them loose in places they wasn't supposed to. And
Yeah.
uh, we had a couple hogs donated to us that was killed off a farm property for a wild game dinner, and it's just not the same. And when you start trapping pigs and you start seeing pigs that have been cut or castrated, you know that people start catching them, turn them loose to do
Right,
it again.
right.
So And
Some
it's just
people,
like, if they had a magic wand, would they wave it and get rid of them? I know some of the hunters wouldn't, because I mean, it's still a big passion of theirs. And
yeah,
one of
it,
the funnest things in Tennessee back then, they had these hog bays, these competition where they'd have a hog in a lot, and they'd turn these hounds and they judged them on how well they could bay it. And
really,
so it was really cool. I mean, it could be pretty brutal. Um, People would turn catch dogs in there, and they shouldn't, but that's what people go to see, was the fights. I mean, to be
yeah.
honest with you, and that
When
got them in trouble.
the first one I saw bait up got into I'd call it nothing more than a puddle, but it was a deep spot in the road that probably never dried out.
Hmm.
And the water was probably only up mid-rib on the pig. And
Yeah.
about six dogs that were just going at it, like rushing in, bopping out, and this pig is just switching his head back and forth. And coming from Chicago, that was the wildest thing I ever saw. And we had
Oh
some
man.
wild shit that was not wildlife related.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and all them guys would say, "Don't hit a dog, don't hit the dog, don't," like, and
Hmm.
it was almost like the dogs. Obviously, the dogs didn't say, "I'm going to back out now and shoot."
Hmm.
Surprised at the teamwork of the dogs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And but you had to get yourself really close for the shot. You were going to take that
Hmm.
shot from 50 yards. You had to be right up there with your feet in the water.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
When
when the dogs would clear for a second, and I tell you what, it was. I'm surprised it didn't turn me into a pig hunter because
oh,
it was
it's
exciting.
it,
Because
it, uh,
that
it's
pig
exciting. A
might as
lot of
well have been a
chaos.
black bear to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And they're so fast. It always surprised me how much faster that pig is than those dogs. I
Yeah,
mean, it's unreal. And those
a pig
dogs that are
is.
good bay dogs, they do work together, and they'll front it and back it and get right up on it. And I enjoyed watching those little jag terriers. We called them jag terriers. I don't even know if they're really a breed, but they look like a curly haired rough coat
Yeah,
wiener dog,
yeah, it's
Dachshund.
a real breed. It's a Yag
And
Terrier. Yeah.
they were had so much grit. They'd run in there and they'd grab that hog. And I remember one hog bay, it was one of the biggest ones in area. I mean, they were disqualified, but those dogs, that hog looked like it was wearing earrings. Those little jag terriers would be on those ears, and that hog was just shaking. This is wild.
He couldn't even catch him with a tusk because
No,
he just whipping his head
no.
around. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
like
But
having.
yeah, we have wild pigs still. Nothing like what Florida and Texas has, but we have some wild pigs here, and they cause a lot of damage. There's some, true wild hogs left in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in East Tennessee. They used to hire people to hunt them, but it's still a problem. I mean, they breed so much, and it's just real hard
Yeah,
to.
they're very prolific. And
Hmm.
now, what about black bear? Because I think historically you've always had black bear, but is that on the increase or is that on the decrease in Tennessee?
I mean, if you read online, we've been in the news recently for black bears because they're waking up. The state has, they're waking up, and they estimate around 6,000. I would, just a personal opinion, I would think there's more than that.
Wow.
Just growing up here, I see bear now where I've never seen them before in my life. I mean, they're coming down in the valley. They've had them on campus here in Knoxville, and
Really?
that's really unheard of. But we're allowed one a year, and it's got to be over 75 pounds, and so we're still heavily regulated. But yeah, our bears seem to be doing great. They get in a lot of trouble because of all the influx of people and the developments. Like I mentioned
Right.
earlier, that we have a lot less opportunity, and so much. My home county in Sevier County, I don't know how much actual bear hunting is being done. That used to be a big county to hunt in, but I mean, with
Right.
Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, all these big destinations, it's harder to find places. And I know families that were born and raised hunting in Sevier County, they're going over into North Carolina to hunt them. So,
Wow. And you go down, I think I-40 runs through Tennessee, right?
hmm.
If you drive down I-40, it does not look populated, but it's populated now.
Yeah. So,
It
on our
just
side of
doesn't
the
look like
mountain,
it. Yeah.
absolutely. And, Cherokee on the other side's getting pretty developed, but, and it's just these small tracts of land. They're buying the land, smaller tracts, and, hounds or any dog, they don't know property boundaries. And
Right.
so we
Is
get a
it
lot of conflict where, landowners, it doesn't have to be non-locals, but even locals too, that come in and buy land, they get so upset for that dog crossing the boundary.
Yeah. Well, you said Tennessee's a right to hunt state, and I know in Michigan, the hound hunters, I think it's a right to free cast, I think they call it.
Mm,
And yes, you still have to go by the property owner, but
hmm
you're not in trouble if your dog crosses boundaries. But that's not always the case in some places either, you
Yeah.
know?
In Tennessee, it was communicated to me, which I'm not law enforcement or
Right.
regulatory. I'm just talking as a hunter, but um, it's the way it's been communicated to me. If you cast out and you turn loose and that dog goes trees a coon or a bear, you're supposed to go knock on a door and get permission. If that's not granted, you have to get the local game warden involved. They
Right.
come out, they try to smooth it over, and
Right.
I think most of the time it's worked out by then. But
Yeah.
if that doesn't work out, I think that eventually has to go get a warrant and to go get your dog, and
Because a good dog isn't going to leave that.
yeah, and which I talk to bear hunters and I advocate bear hunters not to sneak around. It's real tempting to just cut off your light if you're coon hunting and just run get your dog. But
Right.
we get a lot of people pissed off if they don't know what you're doing, especially if you're coon hunting late at night. And
Yeah. So
so
at the one hand, we're trying to teach all the young people how to do everything right, and some of the older people are still going like, "I've been doing it that way forever," you know.
yeah, yeah, and it's real tempting to do that, but if you don't know that landowner. And let's be realistic. Do you want to get a knock on the door at 2 o'clock in the morning, or do you want to go knock on a door at 2 o'clock in the? Because
I'd rather post my property hounds friendly.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
they don't have to wake you up at 2 in the morning.
and I
Maybe
think other states,
Onyx needs to put a layer on there. That's what Onyx
yeah,
needs.
well,
They
that's
need
right, that's right.
hound friendly
Hounds friendly,
property, electronic property
yeah, yeah,
posting.
and it's just uh to teach ethics is one thing, but you always want to try to do the right thing, but I understand it, and it puts us in a real dilemma, what to do there because, do you want to knock on the door at 2 o'clock in the morning? And there's just not a good answer to that. But
Oh
I
my
think
God.
some states get into this question of controlling your dog, and what I've read working with Human Dimensions is, some states define controlling your dog where I believe as a houndsman, if you have tracking collars on it and you do your due diligence, you're still in control of that hound. Where
Right,
some states may not see that, and
right,
there's bad players in it. If you can't cast your bear dogs, 100 foot outside the park boundary or 100 foot off the property boundary,
right.
what's going to happen.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, I'll never solve or help solve the hound problem, but let's take a little walk down your
mhm.
Weimaraner line.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Did you?
started out with with the hounds, and um, I moved out to West Tennessee, and I got my first position with the University of Tennessee as a county agent out in West Tennessee in a beautiful little county called Lewis County. It's where Meriwether Lewis died. That's how it got its name.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
so moved out there. I wanted a dog, and I wanted a hunting dog, and I thought about getting a pointer because it's flatter ground. I've never quail hunted or anything at that point,
yeah.
and so I wanted a pointing breed, some kind of hunting dog stock. And to be honest with you, I just have a soft spot for these working dogs because they don't get utilized much anymore.
Right.
They're falling out of opportunity. So, anyways, I looked at just the local area, and there was actually a Weimaraner breeder in that county. And I contacted her, and she said, "Yeah, you need a friend. You don't know anybody. I got a pup that I'll give you." And I said, "Okay." I went, and it was a 13-month-old neutered male Weimaraner, and he was a big Weimaraner. He was pushing close to 100 pounds. Got him, and he was a loving dog, very sweet, very smart. He just did not point, didn't want to point, didn't want nothing to do with it, and I didn't know what I was doing either.
Right.
So I was trying, and so he would retrieve. He would retrieve great. He would listen, very smart dog. So he got to go dove hunting a couple times, and he was that really my first pet. He lived in the house, and he was rambunctious, had a lot of energy, like
And
Weimaraners are known
half the
for.
size of you.
Half the size of me, and so he lived in the house. And I talked to the breeder and said, I'd like to have another dog. And she's like, "Well, I've just had a litter. If you'll breed this pup that I'll give you, or that you'll get eventually, I'll give her to you as long as you breed her once and you give me the puppies." And I said, "Okay."
Yeah, I've heard that a lot with a lot of breeders do that.
Yeah,
The
so I
female.
picked her up and she was a blue Weimaraner. And I
Oh,
thought that
yeah,
was so cool. 'Cause I didn't know any better. I thought a blue
right.
Weimaraner, I've never heard of that, you know.
Right. I didn't either until I moved to Michigan.
Yeah, so I got this blue Weimaraner, and oh my God, she could not have been a more different dog than that other Weimaraner. And there was no point, no hunting, nothing with that dog.
There
It
was, it
was
wasn't a lack of pointing. It was a lack of everything that you were.
understanding. Yeah, she was super sweet dog.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, as far as brain power goes, she did not have it. She did not want nothing to do with any of that. So, sweet dog. And I had them both of old age. They died of both of old age on me. But that was not a good first experience in the pointing dog world. I loved Weimaraners. I don't think I'd want another one. I might change my mind if I saw them doing what they were bred to do.
Well, if you could get enough quail back in the state, yeah, you might
Hmm.
want another pointing dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that had them for gosh, 12 years. They lived to be. She was around 10 when she passed away, the blue one, and then the male he was 12, and he had, for some reason, and I did a little bit of research. He had a lot of fatty lymphomas all over him, or
Mhm.
lymphomas, and I think that was common with that breed or that line. And so had one ruptured, and he went quick at 12. But I stayed without a dog, and I was wanting to get another dog and didn't for a while. And then, we talked about me catching alpha gal, and that
Right.
got me introduced in the real bird hunting, hot and heavy, because I couldn't deer hunt like I wanted to.
And so duck meat is doesn't fall under the protein profile that bothers you.
No, that's right. So, and there again, it's more of a red meat, darker meat, but since it's not a
Right.
mammal,
Right.
it's safe. So my buddies, when I after I caught alpha gal, they took me on my first waterfowl hunt out in Arkansas, and I fell in love with it. And I just didn't have that opportunity growing up. And so I came back and bought a shotgun, bought a semi-automatic shotgun that I thought I had to have, and
Of course.
wanted a dog, because the most enjoyable part of that duck hunt was watching those dogs work.
Right.
For me, because I grew up with hunting dogs, and so I started on to being on the market looking for a waterfowl dog, but I also wanted to have something that might possibly do upland, because
Hmm.
that's something I've always wanted to try. So I was looking at some Boykin Spaniels, and that didn't work out with my breeder. They're a little bit out of my price range, and for someone that don't know how to train a bird dog, I had no experience. I had failed at the Weimaraner, and so we ended up looking at labs. I had a buddy that didn't want nothing but a black lab. He said, "Don't get anything but a black lab." But I fell into this chocolate lab that I have now, and he's doing great. And I've learned a lot about that side of things. And it's a totally different world. The amount of time and training that you had to put into these versus what I was doing with the hound, is a steep
Right.
learning curve.
Yeah.
But he's more of a dual purpose. He's a great family dog. I wish he'd had more of an off switch, but they tell me that's the chocolate part. But that he's a little crazy, but got a real high drive, and that helped me as a novice trainer. Training my own dog, that helped me because he had a lot of drive and a lot of good bloodline in him to hunt.
Now, are you mentioned earlier you had a really good season last year. It was his first
Hmm.
season, right? Your last.
Yeah, yeah, and that's when I contacted you. I asked you a bunch of questions about force fetching,
Yeah.
and how to handle this puppy, and especially if I want him to do both. And you gave me some great advice, and I didn't just make him stick to my hip the whole time. I kind of let him grow into his own, didn't push things really fast. And
Yeah.
so he had his first season, and some of it was ugly, but he would bring back and retrieve, and I would know what I need to tighten down on. And so he picked up 53 ducks. That was good for the amount of time we hunted. And we're doing the AKC hunt test right now. He's about to do another junior hunt test. We're starting out slow. I know some folks just skip that part and go straight to senior or
Yeah, but
master,
that's
but
people who did the junior before and realized,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's like somebody getting into our organization and saying, "Well, I want to do a senior level dog test." I'm like, "Well, how about
hmm,
you just do the puppy test first?
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
see if you
So
really like."
yeah, and I didn't know the rules or anything. I was
Right.
very ignorant, and So doing those junior things, keeping it slow and simple has been helpful. I was able to force fetch him right after the season. I was real intimidated with that, but talked myself through it and did it very slow. Didn't really force anything, and he really picked up it. He went quicker than what I wanted to go.
Right.
So he went right into that, and no needed to rush it, and he's doing good. Of course, working on steadiness. I think that's the lifetime of the dog. So
Yeah.
working on that.
You let them go, they'll take a mile,
That and
Yeah.
right now we're working on him cheating, and so he likes to cheat a little bit when they throw that bumper or that dead duck across the pond. Instead of going on a straight line, he'll want to creep around that bank or something.
Right,
And I
right,
don't know how to really handle that because, most importantly, he's a meat dog. He'll do that. And while I'm hunting, I don't really care as long as he brings that duck back as quick as he
right.
can. But
Yeah.
I am working on it. I've talked to some other buddies that the best thing I done was join that East Tennessee Retriever Club. That these people have done a great job, helping me out with questions. So slowing him down, getting him to go on that straight line. They taught me some methods to do it. And there's some things that I'm just going to have to live with. He's a little more chatty in the duck blind that I like. And so working on him whining and all that.
Too bad if you can put up with it, but sometimes your friends don't want to put up with
I
it.
don't like it. I mean, I've knock on wood, I haven't had it to where I think it affects the ducks or the birds flying in, but I just don't want to sit out there and listen to that,
Right, right. You're not there to
so
listen to your dog go, "Woo, woo."
yeah. And the e-collar makes it worse for him for some reason, which I'm not just melting his brain or not. I'm just giving him a little stimulation, and I don't even think he notices he's doing it. It's just like a real.
Yeah,
So I've gotten to where I can pinch his muzzle and say quiet, and it's getting better. It's not completely cured, but it's getting better. But it takes a lot of patience on my part to sit and let him do that, and then
yeah.
correct it. But
But you
it's
got
not the
one.
birds that's doing it; it's the other dogs. Like if he's not with another dog, he's fine. But if there's another dog and he has to honor that dog,
Yeah,
or if he sees those other dogs retrieving, he thinks he should be right there with them.
right.
So I'm hoping it's just a young thing and we can get through it.
It's got to be. I mean, it's his first season.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you can't put a lot of weight on that. But like you said, I think join that retriever club, you're going to get a lot of opinions, but you're going to glean some good advice,
Mm-hmm.
and something's going to be like, oh, that's what my dog needed. And
Mm-hmm.
it might
Yeah.
go into somebody's house and putting him on a tie out stake, and he just says, "Oh, it's not." They got to learn it's not my turn, and
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, you took quite the spin. From hounds to Weimaraners.
Mm-hmm.
Something most people have neither had, and
Yep.
now you have a lab. Yeah,
Yeah. And we've been working on upland stuff. This year he went on 3 upland hunts. They were pin birds, but that was something that I'm 38 and I shot my first pheasant a couple of months ago during the season.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a learning curve, but he loves that. I mean, I think he likes that better now. When I let him out of the tailgate, and if it's in a field, he'll start courting a field without even.
Yeah, he doesn't have to sit still and watch
Yeah,
us.
that's why I said he loves it because I'm not hard on him, and he
Right.
gets to just go chase birds and get them shot out to him. So
Like
these,
recess for him.
yeah,
Yeah.
he loves it, and so I love it too. And hopefully we can get on some uh, wild birds eventually. But I've incorporated that into my career where, I was thinking about these gun dogs and how they need jobs to do. And in 4-H, there's 2 projects, or there's many projects, there's livestock project and all these things they participate in, but 2 of them are the outdoor recreation project, which involves hunting skills and shooting sports. And then there's a companion animal project that deals with dog training, pet ownership, and all that. So what I've done is I've combined those two, and I think kids really enjoy it. So you get
Yeah.
kids that don't have dogs or have never seen a hunting dog, and they're being introduced into hunting, and they see how that dog works with you, and you're all like on the same team. You're like the coach, and he's the quarterback, and kids
Right.
have just been begging for it. I mean, we went
Right.
to 3 different counties, and I know that pen raised quail is not the answer, but man, it's great to get people into hunting.
You'll never hear me say a bad word about, I've taken friends, family, I take my daughters to preserves. They don't get 2 chances to hunt all year, and we'll go to,
Hmm.
I don't have the time to take them into the North Woods and maybe hear a grouse.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
dogs could care less. The dogs are
Hmm.
having a ball.
Oh yeah.
They eat good. Yeah, they're pen. That's never been uh, and that's kind of like almost a, well, I guess you should say there are pen raised deer. I want
Hmm.
to say big game hunting's different except for deer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think that's that's especially Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois. If you don't want to do that, you may not have the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The amount of miles you have to drive to go do some of
Oh,
this, you know.
yeah, it's ridiculous. But something else I was reading, and I was trying to pull it up while you're talking about. I I don't know what part you're involved with this is, but the forest fall block. Where was it? With tall, you're working with tall timbers and with the Ames plantation.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking to do in the future. So Tall Timbers is working with University of Tennessee. They've got a project that they're wanting to do for
That's
quail out there,
that's
and I think it's going to be really good. They've done a lot of habitat management out there, and you're probably familiar with Ames. They do a bird dog test down there, and so they've had to use pen raised birds down there for a while, I guess.
right, right.
But they're trying to bring some other DNA and some other things for these birds. Talk to the surrounding landowners to get them on board, and they're
Mhm.
working with the School of Natural Resources with our Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, and so it's going to be a big partnership. And I think that's really kicked off this year. So we're looking to do that, and it's where I would come in is once they get that established, they can go look at young adults, college students, and even high schoolers can go look at what quail habitat management looks like, and
Right.
then participate in a hunt would be my
Yeah,
goal.
'cause, I mean, of course, you lived on the side of a mountain. There probably wasn't any
Hmm.
quail there either, but
No, not much.
historically, Tennessee was a great quail state
Hmm.
historically, and
Yeah, and
it's
even growing up as a boy, I would hear him holler. I mean, we'd hear him, whistle Bob White and stuff in the pastures and things. But and it's just a great thing to bring people that don't hunt out there, and they love the dogs. They like interacting with the dogs. We do a little hunt test for them too with the retrievers, and they get to see how the dogs work, the amount of
yeah,
training. And so eventually I would like to have a youth hunt test, in Tennessee, just
right,
with youth that have gotten into this. But it's all been positive responses, and we have kids that go and they say they'll never forget it, and they want to come back. We've had kids, 10, 11 years old shooting quail, which makes me nervous around my dog. You know,
yeah,
we
yeah,
we do a big shotgun 101 and all the safety stuff, and but they get to see my flushing dog lab work, and then we've had them out with some really good German short hairs, but they were deep working, so they didn't get to really see them work. They got to walk up on the point,
right,
but that's going to be my next endeavor. As you know, I have a personal dog that I hunt with. My next dog would probably be a slow moving pointer where I could take it out with kids and let them watch that
right.
dog work and actually set up on the point.
Well, I'll give you a hand looking for that when you're ready. I'll give you a hand.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be our next step. And or ideally that would be something that, would stay in our sight and work slow, and
Yeah,
would actually point. I can keep Whiskey, my dog, 25 yards from me, but it's pretty quick. They got to flush and shoot,
you got to be ready. Yeah,
and got to be ready. But yeah, I would love for them to be able to work with a slower pointer. And those German short hairs are great dogs. And there's probably some German short hairs that can do what I just described. But
oh yeah,
uh,
for sure there are.
these dogs were out used to hunting west, and they covered a lot of ground.
Right, right.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got there, but they got there way ahead of you did.
Hmm.
No,
Yeah, and
there's a lot. You're right. There's a lot of short hairs that could do exactly what you're saying. The kids
hmm
can work, and then you have the time to bring that new hunter up a little safer
hmm
because the
hmm
dog isn't going to move, the bird's typically not going to move, and you get a little
hmm
time as the mentor to be like, okay,
Yeah,
everything's
yeah,
cool. All right,
yeah.
Ronnie, you're next.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. With Whiskey, it's really quick. We can tell when he gets birdie, but I mean,
sure,
we have to do. I mean, we do it for anything involving guns, but we do a big spiel about windows. They basically compete a rundown of hunter safety, but right before we go in the field, we talk about shooting windows, and I
yeah,
want to see daylight between the bird in
right,
the field.
right,
So
yeah.
So
Well,
we have a,
it's almost like dove hunting too. You don't want to take a low dove shot.
oh yeah,
When I learned to
absolutely.
dove hunt in Virginia, well, I mean, learned to, but when I got exposed to the true dove hunting with a bunch of people,
Hmm.
you get the same safety. You can't just pop a dove off going across the top of the sunflowers.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna hit
Yeah.
somebody.
And I enjoy watching these young kids that, they may be on a trap team or a skeet shooting team,
Yeah,
and they'll come in there all big and bad, and it's a lot different shooting at feathers,
it is. It is.
especially at dove. I've had trap kids that are state champions on the trap team, and they really struggle on doves. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
It's a lot different.
I don't know many people who don't struggle on doves,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know.
it's tough. It's for sure tough. But those avenues, combining the dogs, and that's why I wanted to reach out, because I think what we're doing is pretty cool here at Tennessee, and there's other states doing similar things, but you know, teaching that aspect of wildlife biology and getting the students involved that are going to be future land managers, I think is going to be crucial
Yeah.
for our success. And if you looked at dove or not dove, but quail in the South, if you wrote a plan on how to eradicate quail, we've just done an outstanding job at doing that.
Hey, that's fact.
And what's unique about Tennessee is we have more forested land now than we did in the 1800s.
Wow.
And
So
so a lot of people don't realize that.
there was more natural meadows and grasslands.
Absolutely. So that area you went to Crossville, you talked about going pig hunting in Crossville. That used to be all prairie savanna on the
Really?
plateau and everything. Yeah, they used to be buffalo, is what they tell us. And so
Wow.
they've done a good job of converting a lot of that back. But you just think about it, all the old farmlands that have grown up and
Yeah.
all the of all the managed lands that have grown up. But yeah, our state forestry specialists, they make it a point to tell folks that in certain parts of the world, yeah, deforestation is a real issue, but here in Tennessee, we almost need to support some deforestation for quail because
Yeah. Well, I mean, you need active forest management, you need active
hmm
grassland management, and you need active, I don't want to say R3, you need active education for all of
hmm
it.
yeah,
Ronnie, is there anything we didn't cover that you want to cover? And if somebody is in Tennessee or is going to end up going to a university there,
hmm yeah,
let people know like the path that they would get,
yeah.
whether to get a hold of you or somebody else.
Absolutely. So if you live in the state of Tennessee and you have a need for on your property some education, some resources on how to manage wildlife, whether it be quail, deer, turkey, non-game, find your local county extension office. All 95 counties have an extension office. If you don't live in the state of Tennessee, find your land grant institution. Like if you live in Michigan, it's Michigan State, and they
Right.
have professionals that'll come out and could do farm visits, help you out on it. If you want to go to the University of Tennessee, you type in utk.edu. They'll show programs. We're into School of Natural Resources. That's where you'll go if you want to major in wildlife and fisheries management or outdoor recreation. So we have a path for those students that are our prospective students that want to get in that career field. So, um, reach out to your local county extension agent. The only thing that I think that we didn't mention, I just want to take a shot at it, is East Tennessee used to have a lot of grouse. I've seen you do episodes on grouse.
Yeah.
I've lived here, my whole life except for this 10 years out in West Tennessee and 4 in Florida. I can count on one hand how many grouse I've heard or seen. And so that comes again, the forests are growing up, grouse like that young forest and,
Right.
again, supporting cutting
I bet you
trees,
back in the
management
day, you
practices.
see quail and grouse come out of the same piece of property back in the day.
Absolutely. When I was a kid, and I remember going turkey hunting in the spring and hearing quail and hearing grouse drum earlier in this season.
Didn't get to see them, but you knew they were there.
When they're there, I haven't seen any in Sevier County, East Tennessee should have them. I mean, there's some folks that kill them up in upper East Tennessee, like around the Tri-Cities, Johnson City, all that. But um, that's one thing I haven't done because I don't have a pointer. If I'm going to have to shoot a bird like that, I definitely want to have a chance to sneak up on it because,
Yeah.
man, I've seen people shoot them, and we have a specialist here that grouse hunts with a boykin, and he puts a lot of mile in to get 4 or 5 flushes, and he's got to be ready with that flusher. If I need all the help I can get, I would definitely want a pointer for that game.
Well, my friends up in northern Michigan, couple of them that they run labs under grouse, but we have enough grouse that they've got
Hmm.
some little jet fire labs that just basically stir the pot up,
I
and
bet.
they make them grouse so nervous they're coming out backwards, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah, the way
down here,
our mountains there are the way our mountains are here, it'd be hard for me to keep up with a flushing dog, I
oh
think.
yeah, yeah. You leave mountains out of my future hunts. I'm done with mountains. I'm done with
Yeah,
mountains. But you guys grew up in them. You get a different I don't want to say set of legs on you, but when you grow up on a
it's different. Yeah,
it's different. I saw people. I'm just going down. I'm going to say goodbye here in a second. But when I moved to Virginia, I spent about 10 years there of my life, and I met a bunch of bear hunters as I was looking for grouse, and they're great guys. They'll tell you like, oh yeah, go down this holler, and he said we always put grouse up down there because
yeah.
they're everywhere with their dogs. And I see some of these guys, I'm like, there's no way these guys could go up and down a hill. But my God, they'll follow them hounds up and down them hills and them canyons.
Oh yeah,
I,
yeah.
eh,
Motivation.
yeah, well, it's motivation, but you got to grow. I think you got to grow up with it.
It's
You guys
something to get
probably
used
couldn't.
to.
You didn't play any soccer in your backyard, did you? No,
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 no.
there wasn't enough flat ground to play soccer in the backyard.
That's right.
Well,
That's
Ronnie,
right.
thanks for coming on. I'm glad we got a little advocacy out there, a little advocacy talk, some dog talk, and let me know how your next duck season goes with your lab.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Ron.
All right, pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir.